Hope you got your beer ready. Okay, so there are tons of things that have been established and set up in mostly Batman v Superman, but some in Man of Steel as well, like 2. Yeah, that's one advantage to Man of Steel, it's at least easier to fucking follow. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, for one thing, we already know Suicide Squad is coming, which Suicide Squad is their last chance to impress me with anything. If that can't impress me with anything, I'm done with DC for good. Like, if this is the road to a Justice League film, I'm fucking out. I'm done. I'm seriously done. So we obviously know that tons of movies are gonna come up. My major problem so far with the extended universe, not only for the fact that the movies themselves are fucking terrible, but my main problem with them is that they're trying so desperately to play catch-up to Marvel while also trying to not be Marvel by being darker and grittier. Okay, look, I understand that DC and Marvel are very different, and DC stories generally are a little darker and a little more serious than others. Like, say what you will about what's the thing that makes Superman, like, you know, what's the thing that makes Superman different from, say, Batman? Well, for one thing, he's not a dark, brooding character. Does he brood sometimes? Yeah, every now and then. Does he have some dark moments? Yeah, like every human being does, which, you know, that's the thing. You know, that's the story about Superman. He's a god trying to live among men, and is arguably very human himself, at least when it comes to him as a person. But even then, he's much more bright, he's optimistic, he believes in the best of humanity, and despite how much bad shit goes on, he will still keep believing in the best of humanity. He does what he does because that's the kind of person he is. He's an optimistic Boy Scout. That's who Superman is as a character. And none of that is there in the 2 movies. We get none of that in Man of Steel. Like, they say that's what he'll become, but they never actually show anything like that. The best we get is a few lines and exchanges with Lois Lane and Clark Kent, but it's only exchanges, and even then I think that's more Henry Cavill playing as the character rather than the script letting him do it. When it comes to Batman v Superman though, none of it's shown. Honestly, Superman is so much like Batman now, which is weird because that's not who Superman is. You can make a dark Superman movie. It's like what Geek Revolution said in one of his reviews. You can make a dark Superman movie, but you can't make Superman the dark part. And why would you? Why would you want to? That completely negates the point of the fucking character. At least how we know him now, the modern take of the character we know now. So right there, that is terrible. So, but my biggest issue with the DC Extended Universe is that they're trying so hard to be dark and gritty, and the movies themselves are so grim and heartless and mean-spirited. And look, I'm okay with movies and shows being dark, okay? Like, I can handle that stuff. I'm okay with it. I don't care. My thing is that it needs to be justified. Not to mention, it needs to be done well. There needs to be heart and humanity to it, no matter how dark it is. For example, The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, and say what you will about The Dark Knight Rises, but I still like the movie, and even Dark Knight Rises had moments of heart, it had moments of humanity, it had funny, humorous moments at points, and despite how grim a lot of situations looked, despite how intense things really were getting, they still had moments where, like, they still had moments where they were just, you know, they still had moments where there were, like, some, like, for example, Batman Begins had a lot of really funny moments. Like, for example, when, you know, during a case, Commissioner Gordon is talking with Batman, and he's saying, alright, I'll get one of the cop cars. It's like, no, I'll take my car. So he gets the Batmobile, and Jim Gordon's like, I gotta get me one of those. You know, stuff like that. You can do stuff like that. I know, it's weird, but you can have, this thing called, shit, what is it? Humor! That's what it is. Humor. That's right, I forgot. I forgot the word almost. Because these movies barely have any of it. Most of it comes from Henry Cavill as Superman, but even then, it's very, very rare. Like, there's only a couple of instances where they have a joke here and there. You know? it's extremely rare, and in Batman v Superman, it's nearly non-existent. The most amount of jokey dialogue I get is from Bruce and Alfred. And that's mostly because I think Jeremy Irons and Ben Affleck not only have great chemistry and are also just amazing actors, but also because Ben Affleck knows Batman. He's a fucking Batman fan. So of course he would get the character. Heck, even Batman makes jokes. You know the whole line, "I'm not wearing hockey pants." You know that line? That was meant to be a joke. Yeah, it was funny for other reasons, not because it was particularly a funny line, even though, yeah, it was, but it was also funny because, yes, it was funny because it sounded so stupid when he said it, because the voice sounds like Batman has lung cancer. But, like, the reason why that line was said was because Batman was making a joke. Heck, even Batman the Animated Series, usually a lot of people like it because of how dark it is. Usually what is said to be one of the best episodes in the series, Almost Got Him, is really not that dark of an episode. It's just 5 villains being assholes to each other while playing a game of poker. I think it's poker anyway. I don't know. I don't play those kinds of games. But yeah, they're playing a game with each other, talking about stories where they nearly killed Batman. It's not really a dark episode, like, at all. Does it have dark moments? Yeah, occasionally, but it's not that dark of an episode. Yet it's said to be one of the best episodes. Why? Because it's just the villains just sitting down and talking to each other. They laugh. They get angry at each other. They have personality, and it is so much fun seeing all those characters. Poison Ivy, not Killer Croc. Not gonna give away the spoiler for that episode. You can go watch it for yourself. The Joker, and Two-Face, and I don't know if I've ever said that. And the Penguin. And it turns out to be one of the best episodes. Why? Because there's a lot of funny moments. The villains themselves are great characters, so we love seeing them interact with each other. It's just a really, really good episode. You can have humanity, you can have humor, you can have jokes. If you want to be dark, fine. DC stories are generally darker than Marvel. Now, does that mean that Marvel can't be dark? No. Daredevil is one of the darkest things Marvel's ever done, at least in terms of the TV show. I know, like, the comic was really dark as well, but I haven't read much of the comic. I've only seen the TV series and the Ben Affleck movie, which is terrible in the theatrical cut, okay in the director's cut. I mainly attribute that to Ben Affleck. With that said, yes, Marvel can be dark, but yeah, I will admit though, I've seen a lot of darker things from DC. But they still have humanity. They still have funny moments. They still have characters with a personality. They joke around with each other. A lot of people say that, like, oh, Marvel is just so many jokes, it's not serious enough. Well, here's the thing. The reason why they joke around a lot is because they're fucking human. They're being sarcastic with each other. They have a lot of funny lines. For Christ's sakes, the darkest movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, movie, not TV series, is probably Winter Soldier, just because of the themes it tackles of of governmental conspiracy, how the government has been compromised, pretty much putting them into a spy movie. How can we feel safe when there's all this corruption in the government? And it's probably it tackles darker themes and darker subject material, but one of the first lines that Black Widow says in the movie when she picks up Steve Rogers is like, hey, I gotta pick up some old fossil. Have you seen him? Obviously referring to Captain America, since he was frozen in ice for about how many fucking years. So, those kinds of lines are said. They make those kinds of jokes because they're human. They're acting like it. It's witty banter, and it's something that movies have been doing for years. And it's something that I hope doesn't go away, because ultimately that's how people act in real life. I'm a sarcastic asshole. A lot of people have a sense of humor. It's being human. And that's what the thing that these movies lack. They're so dark and grim and lifeless. Just because they are, and even then, like, the only thing that's not dark is Lex Luthor in Batman v Superman, but not because he's a good character or he has humanity to him, he's just flat out fucking insane. Which by the way, Jesse Eisenberg is Lex Luthor. It's like, no, just no. I don't care if he's Lex Jr. I don't care. I still don't like the performance. Get over it. You know, the movies themselves, they lacked that, but alright, so but I think I've already made myself clear enough by the millions of examples I just have given you. So the second reason, they're playing catch up to Marvel. I love how they say they want to be so different from Marvel, yet they're actually running into a lot of the same traps that some of their older movies and even a few of their newer ones have. Heck, not to mention they're trying to catch up to Marvel. We're not trying to be different, I swear. Even though you're trying to catch up to them, because all this really is that you want to make money because Avengers made money. Yeah, bullshit. Okay, look. I understand the MCU wasn't done just because they wanted to tell good stories. There was also a lot of money involved, and they wanted to make a lot more money. The Avengers made a lot of money. That's why the MCU still exists to this day, is because it still makes big bucks for Disney. I get that. I get that shareholders are more interested in money than making a good movie. That's why you hire the right people that actually have interest. Usually those projects only go well if the creators themselves have interest in the source material. That's usually the only way these things turn out well. They got the right people like Joss Whedon, the Russo brothers, got a really good cast like Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. or Tony Stark. Might as well be casting Tony Stark as Tony Stark. You got stuff like people like Edward Norton and Mark Ruffalo. You got some really talented actors from Hollywood. Got some really good writers. You got some of the creators of these characters like Stan Lee involved. You know, you have tons of people from Marvel working with them. It is called Marvel Studios. People from Marvel who work on comics also help with the movies. So a lot of passion goes into those. Now, do they always turn out a success? No, admittedly, Iron Man 2, I don't think it's as bad as people say it is, but it's not really that great. It's okay, but nothing more. It's just kind of okay, but it's definitely one of the weaker entries. The Incredible Hulk was okay at best. Very average. You know, the Thor movies are okay, and, you know, Thor 1 I do like. Thor 1 I will defend is a good 8 out of 10 movie. But Thor the Dark World is more of like a 6 or a 7 for me, if I had to rate them, which I don't usually rate, but, you know, still, if I had to like give them a basic rating for just like a basic, very, very off-the-wall rating, I'd give that one a 7, because really nothing happened. You know, has everything turned out a success? No. But usually the ones that do, and the ones that are just universally praised, like Avengers and Iron Man 1, and Captain America the Winter Soldier, and, you know, even Age of Ultron and Ant-Man are still pretty well received. Hell, Daredevil and Jessica Jones are fucking amazing. In fact, I'd argue that Daredevil and Jessica Jones are better than pretty much any of the movies, including Winter Soldier. Fight me, fanboys! But, anyway, just, they have passion put into them, even if not all of them are that great. Though, in my opinion, most, if not all of them, have something to offer, with the exception of Thor the Dark World. No, even Incredible Hulk has something to offer. You know, you get the point. They usually have something to offer, they usually have something good about them, and usually, you know, they turn out really good. So, they had some effort put into them. So, that's usually the only way these kinds of projects go well. Here with Batman and Superman, they're just desperately trying to play catch up to Marvel at this point. And honestly, with maybe one or two people being exceptions, like Ben Affleck is a Batman fan, so obviously he's one of the exceptions. Not to mention, I really feel bad for Ben Affleck. Like, seriously, the sad Affleck meme, like, it's funny, but it's also really depressing because I really do feel like Ben Affleck was trying, and I really feel really bad for Ben Affleck because he really knocked it out of the park with his performance. He really tried his all to do this character justice, and Justice League. Anyway, still, you know what I mean. He really tried, and the movie just did not turn out that great. I don't think it's gonna ruin his career, honestly. It really isn't. I mean, he's already proven himself that he's more than capable as an actor, but also as a director. Like, he's a phenomenal director. But he's also a Batman fan, so, and heck, most people are saying he's the best part of the movie anyway, so I don't think it's gonna hurt his career much. But regardless, he really tried with this role, and he's a Batman fan. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't want to let Batman down, but with the exception of Ben Affleck, with the exception of him, like, no one else really cares that much, or at least they don't seem like they care. I mean, maybe Zack Snyder's a fan of these heroes, but honestly, I don't really think he's that big of a Superman fan. A lot of the people that were working on it don't really seem like a fan of these characters, except for, okay, yeah, Christopher Nolan's a fan of Batman, but he's like, what, a co-writer, along with Goyer, and I don't hate Goyer as a person, but I don't think he's that great of a writer, so, you know. Most of the best stuff from the Nolan movies came from Nolan himself. When Goyer had some sort of input, it could be extremely hit or miss. So, that's the thing, they usually have people that really like these characters in on it. Heck, that's why Deadpool, the movie that came out in February, that's why Deadpool was such an awesome movie. I don't give a fuck what people say. Like, people say, is like, oh, the story was basic. It's a Deadpool movie. What are you expecting? Like, you know, some people say, it's like, so overrated. It's like, okay, fine, you have the right to say it's overrated, but I have the right to say, I don't care. I still really liked it. So, yeah, but the Deadpool movie was really awesome. Why was it, though? Because Ryan Reynolds really, really, really wanted to make that movie happen. Why was the Wolverine a pretty decent success? Because Hugh Jackman really wanted to tell that story because he was a fan of Wolverine. You know, if it's not the directors, it's the actors. Henry Cavill, I don't know if he's a fan of Superman, but I've never really heard anything that's saying he was. I could be wrong. Go ahead and, if you bother to watch this super long video, go right ahead and say if he is or not, but I don't know for sure. So already, the projects don't really have many people that are really that passionate about the characters themselves. Not to mention, because they're trying to play catch up to Marvel, that's probably the only reason why Zack Snyder was hired. Nolan didn't want to direct another movie for DC. He wanted to move on to something else, specifically Interstellar. Of course, I'm sure they paid him a lot of money to help with Man of Steel, but, you know, that's like really it. Zack Snyder, I believe, was only chosen because of his past records with Watchmen and 300, and that's literally it. Probably mostly Watchmen. So, that's it. And as for some of the other directors, I don't know. I know Ben Affleck, I believe, is directing the new Batman film that's going to be coming out 10 years from now, but regardless, that's one director. But everyone else, I don't really know what's going to happen. Like, none of the directors really seem like they have much experience with the characters, with the exception of Ben Affleck, who's going to direct the new Batman film. So, already, and Zack Snyder's going to direct the Justice League films, and I'm pretty sure Zack Snyder, if he doesn't give a fuck about Superman, I know for a fact he doesn't give a fuck about Justice League. So, heck, just make Batman in the Justice League. Batman's been everywhere else for the past couple of years anyway. And, my third issue is that, you know, this sort of goes in line with 2, so I'm not really sure I'm going to call it another number, but this is probably my biggest issue, besides the movies not being good. But okay, fine, second biggest issue is that they're playing a lot of their cards way too fucking early. They already used Doomsday, they used Superman Lives, they used the Dark Knight Returns story, they've also used bits and pieces of The Killing Joke, and not The Killing Joke, Death in the Family, because Jason Todd is dead. So, spoilers. It's a one-off scene. Besides, I think you saw it in the trailers. But, they're pulling a lot of their cards way too early. Heck, Darkseid's gonna be in it, and they also had that little shitty dream sequence. You know, the one where Batman's shooting up a bunch of people and Superman looks like a fucking monster, even more than he already was? Yeah, that was supposed to set up Injustice. Yeah, the Justice Lords arc, essentially. So we have Darkseid, Superman Lives, and Doomsday, and all of those, and Darkseid's coming as well. Okay, Darkseid I will vouch for, because admittedly, Darkseid is a really big threat to Superman. Not only that, but he's also a big threat to the Justice League, because Darkseid is probably one of the most powerful villains in the DC universe. So, for fuck's sake, he's the ruler of a planet and an army. But so many cards are being played way too early. And to me, it's happening way too fast. And the only reason they're doing this is to try and play catch up to Marvel. Now you could argue that there are other stories they could do, especially after the Justice League is put together, but regardless, that doesn't stop it from being jarring and awkward. And that's possibly the biggest reason why Batman v Superman is a jumbled mess, because they set up so many different fucking plot points for about 20 more different movies. You know, say what you will about Marvel, but setup is usually not the biggest problem with their movies, with the exception of Iron Man 2 and Avengers Age of Ultron. But with Age of Ultron, while there were a few points, and if you're wondering why I'm repeating myself, the camera keeps cutting. It cuts after 20 minutes. But anyway, Age of Ultron does have moments of setup, like they really awkwardly shoehorned in Thor's side story with the dream that Thor goes into. Not to mention that, you know, there's also bits of, you know, Captain America and Tony Stark kind of, you know, and Iron Man just kind of butting heads with each other, those kinds of things. But really, Age of Ultron sticks to more or less the plot that it was set to focus on, with a couple of diversions here and there that are, yes, admittedly awkward. Age of Ultron is not a perfect movie. I really like it, and I know I'm gonna get fucking flack for that, but I don't care. I really enjoy it, so, yeah, that's your fucking problem if you don't like that. Sorry. But yeah, anyway, it's just, you know, it has the same problem as Amazing Spider-Man 2, only probably even worse, because DC is trying to play catch up to Marvel even faster. So, but those are like the big three issues, if you want to call them three issues anyway. The biggest issues regardless, besides the fact that the movies aren't good, anyway. But the main thing, the main question I'm really here to ask in this rant is that, what are we going to do next? What are they going to do next? We obviously know Suicide Squad is way too far into production. The Wonder Woman movie is probably in production as well. I think the DC Extended Universe is here to stay, because Batman v Superman pretty much guaranteed, it made a shit ton of money. Though for some reason Warner Brothers is bitching about how it's a disappointment at the box office because it didn't make Avengers money. Fuckers, you made like 800 million? I'm pretty sure that's not only more than the most recent Spider-Man film, Amazing Spider-Man 2, that's more than some certain Marvel movies. Shut the fuck up, alright? You made your fucking money. You know, I always hate it. I understand, like, maybe that's being a bit too mean, but I always hate it when companies bitch about that, yet they're fine. Like, for example, like when Square released Tomb Raider 1 and it made a lot of money, but it didn't make enough money because they poured way too much money into fucking advertising. Just fuck you, Square Enix. But okay, anyway, off track. Batman v Superman obviously made its money. Suicide Squad is being made, and that's probably going to make a lot of money too. So what's next? Well, there are a couple things I think they should have done differently.